In 2013, Hatem Ben Arfa was still keeping his most ambitious dreams alive, even declaring that he still dreamt of winning the Ballon d'Or. For many, these words seemed disconnected from reality, especially as his career at the time didn't appear to align with such aspirations. However, a year later, he joined the ranks of players like Harry Maguire, who traveled between cities on loan. The talent he had once shown in his youth was seemingly becoming a tale of unfulfilled promises. Despite having shared a career trajectory with Karim Benzema, tensions between the two were evident. In 2016, the friction reached its peak when Ben Arfa was asked about Benzema. Although Benzema had already won the Ballon d'Or, Ben Arfa was not exactly a friend of his. When Benzema was asked about Ben Arfa's transfer, he didn't hesitate to label it a disaster. The French striker expressed, "I saw him do incredible things. Had he followed the path laid out for him, we'd be playing side by side." According to Benzema, they were technically similar, but Ben Arfa's discipline and consistency were entirely different. Ben Arfa, on the other hand, confessed at that time that he felt his career was like a video game. He compared his footballing life to a Super Mario game, where he had already lost all his lives and was playing his final chance. This sense of being at a critical point in his career materialized 8 games later, when the only match his team had won was the one in which he had been benched. At that moment, his frustration reached worrying levels. On a day that would become emblematic of his emotional instability, Ben Arfa left home driving his Mercedes at high speed and ended up crashing into a parked car, hitting it so hard that his vehicle ended up in the front garden of a house. Despite this accident, which was a clear sign that he was not in the right mental state to play football, the next day he was included in the starting 11 against Manchester United. Only 30 minutes into the match, coach Steve Bruce began to notice something strange. Ben Arfa was barely moving on the pitch. Intrigued, he asked one of the analysts to check the data. What they discovered was shocking. Ben Arfa had covered less distance than the goalkeeper during the game. Bruce immediately took him off the pitch and made it clear he would never be welcome in the team again. For Newcastle, the club that had loaned him, this incident was the final straw. They decided to terminate his contract, despite only 6 weeks remaining, and paid him compensation. The situation didn't end there. Just a few days later, no one knew where Ben Arfa was. Concerned for his well-being, they decided to check on him at home, only to discover he had fled the country, leaving all his belongings behind. Hatem Ben Arfa had disappeared. At 28, it seemed his football story had come to an end. For many, this ending, though tragic, was predictable. From a young age, Ben Arfa had shown signs of erratic behavior. At 12, he joined the famous Clairefontaine Academy, the French government-funded talent pool that had produced stars like Thierry Henry and Nicolas Anelka. 3 years later, he was already considered France's greatest young talent, with clubs like Manchester United, Chelsea, Ajax, and AC Milan closely following his development. However, his temper began to surface even then. During the filming of a documentary about the academy, Ben Arfa was caught on camera in a fight with his teammate Abu Diaby, an altercation that quickly became public. Despite his talent, his anger issues were well known even before he signed his first professional contract. Subsequently, Olympique Lyonnais secured his services, where he teamed up with another young talent, Karim Benzema. Together, they led Lyon to the French U16 championship final in their first year. Although they lost, Ben Arfa left an indelible mark. The following year, alongside Samir Nasri, they won the U17 European Championship, with Ben Arfa scoring in every match up to the final. This triumph opened the door to Lyon's first team, where they played a key role for 3 years. While Benzema took up the role of the team's main striker, Ben Arfa also began to shine. In one of his most memorable performances, he scored 2 goals against PSG, including one where he weaved through the entire defense to score from an impossible angle. Despite his initial success at Lyon, Ben Arfa's problems with the coaching staff and the club president began to escalate. At the end of the season, a physical altercation in the dressing room marked the beginning of the end of his time at the club. Despite having won 3 trophies that year and being named France's Young Player of the Year, Ben Arfa decided to force his way out, rejecting offers from clubs like Arsenal and Real Madrid. Instead, he chose to join Olympique Marseille, in a transfer marred by legal and emotional conflicts. Upon his arrival at Marseille, tensions quickly surfaced. Just 2 weeks after signing, he had already fought with his teammate Djibril Cissé. However, despite these issues, Ben Arfa continued to show flashes of his talent on the pitch. He scored 6 goals and provided 4 assists in his first 11 league matches. But then, in a Champions League match against Liverpool, he fought with another teammate before the game, marking the start of a season full of ups and downs. As Benzema joined Real Madrid alongside Cristiano Ronaldo and Kaká, Ben Arfa watched as his career at Marseille stagnated. The relationship with the Marseille coach deteriorated rapidly. Fans began accusing the manager of sabotaging Ben Arfa's progress, leaving him on the bench even when he showed flashes of his former talent. Despite everything, he managed to be pivotal in the team's victory in the League Cup final, where he assisted the decisive goal. His performance in the last matches of the season helped Marseille win their first league title in 18 years. However, the internal conflict continued, and Ben Arfa again declared that he was willing to spend a whole season without playing if he was not allowed to leave the club. Eventually, Ben Arfa fled to Paris, prompting Marseille to give in and let him go. At 23, he had already won more titles than many established players, but his character remained his worst enemy. Despite being compared to legends like Maradona and Zinedine Zidane, his erratic behavior kept him away from the top clubs. Only teams like Galatasaray, Newcastle United, and Werder Bremen showed interest in him. In 2010, Ben Arfa was loaned to Newcastle United, but his time in the Premier League was also marked by tragic moments. In just his 4th match, he suffered a brutal tackle from Nigel de Jong that broke his fibula and tibia, a serious injury that sidelined him for over a year. Despite this tragedy, Newcastle decided to make his transfer permanent. When he finally returned to the pitch, Ben Arfa showed flashes of his former talent, scoring spectacular goals, including one that was nominated for the Puskás Award for his incredible dribbling from midfield. However, his inconsistency and attitude problems continued to affect his long-term performance. Although Ben Arfa had brilliant moments in his career, his story is filled with what could have been. His behavioral issues, poor decisions, and inability to maintain emotional stability in professional football ultimately limited a career that, in terms of talent, could have been legendary. Throughout his career, Ben Arfa played for several prestigious clubs, including Olympique Lyon, Olympique Marseille, Newcastle United, Paris Saint-Germain, and Rennes, among others. His time at PSG was perhaps the most controversial, as, despite arriving with high expectations, he ended up being sidelined due to disagreements with coach Unai Emery and the club's management. This incident tarnished his career and created a reputation as a problematic player. After leaving PSG, Ben Arfa played for teams like Rennes, where he experienced a brief resurgence, helping the club win the Coupe de France in 2019. However, his performances were not consistent enough to keep him in the elite. He subsequently had short stints with Real Valladolid and Girondins de Bordeaux, but his time at both clubs was brief and without significant contributions. His last club was LOSC Lille, where he signed in 2022, but expectations were not met, and his performance was erratic. After this period, Ben Arfa decided to step away from professional football, leaving an ambiguous legacy. A player with incredible talent who never managed to establish himself as a consistent star due to tensions with coaches and his volatile personality. One of the most interesting aspects of Hatem Ben Arfa's current life is his involvement in padel, a sport that has grown exponentially in popularity in recent years, especially in Europe. Padel is a mix between tennis and squash and has attracted many former footballers seeking a competitive and entertaining way to stay fit after retiring from football. Ben Arfa has found in padel a new outlet to express his competitiveness. Although he has not fully immersed himself in the sport professionally, he has participated in local tournaments and charity events related to padel. For him, this sport is a way to stay connected to the sporting world without the pressures and controversies that marked his football career. Additionally, it allows him to maintain his physical skill and agility, which were prominent features of his game. Padel has also served as an emotional escape for Ben Arfa, who has mentioned in several interviews that football created immense pressure due to the expectations that always surrounded him. Padel, on the other hand, is more relaxed without the constant media spotlight, allowing him to enjoy the sport without so much responsibility. On a personal level, Ben Arfa has always been a reserved and enigmatic figure. While he has occasionally appeared in the media, he rarely delves into details about his private life. However, it is known that he has a strong and independent character, which has partly defined his journey both on and off the pitch. One of the most discussed aspects of his personal life is his life philosophy. Influenced by spirituality and mysticism, Ben Arfa has spoken in interviews about his interest in philosophical and spiritual topics, which has helped him cope with the ups and downs of his career. He is known for having an introspective view of life, something that contrasts with the public perception of him as a controversial and temperamental player. This calmer and more reflective side is one of the reasons he has found in padel an ideal outlet, away from the cameras and the intensity of high-level football. Throughout his career, Ben Arfa has also had clashes with various coaches and officials, which has led to the perception that he was a difficult player. However, those who know him personally speak of a passionate and extremely dedicated man, but with a personality that did not always fit into the more conventional work environments of football. Ben Arfa will always be remembered as one of the most talented players of his generation in France, although his legacy will be marked by what could have been. At his peak, he had the ability to change the course of a match with an individual play, dazzling with his dribbling and vision. However, the lack of consistency and off-field conflicts prevented him from reaching his full potential. His love for the sport has not disappeared, as evidenced by his passion for padel. Although football is no longer his priority, he remains connected to the sporting world, and it wouldn't be surprising to see him more involved in charitable initiatives or sporting events in the future. Ben Arfa will always be a fascinating figure, a mix of genius and controversy, whose natural talent left an indelible mark on those who watched him play. With his transition to padel and his more private life, he seems to have found a balance that allows him to enjoy a quieter, less hectic life than the one he had during his days as a footballer. This has been all for today. Thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for our next exciting content about the world of sports. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments. See you next time.